Hello there! Welcome to Nerd.World. Hope you're having a good day wherever you are in the world. And in this video we are going to be covering this Federation space station K7, originally featured in Star Trek the Original Series. If you like this video and any others on my channel, please like, share and subscribe, as that really does help the channel, especially with the YouTube algorithm the way that it is. And please check out my second channel, Nerd.World Films. Do the same over there if you like the content on that channel, as I'm still trying to grow both of these channels. And with all that said, let's get started with this video. Deep Space Station K7 was a Federation grain storage and distribution facility located on the Klingon border. It was responsible for the distribution of resources to various outpost colonies and starships throughout that region. The station was in operation by at least 2256, although its exact commissioning date is unknown. We know that it was in operation at this time due to the fact that it appears on a star chart during the Federation-Klingon War, and its exact location is pinned on that star chart as a position of strategic importance. The station would also later be occupied by the Klingons during that conflict, and used possibly as a staging ground or probably supplies depot for their forces invading the Federation. Later, in 2268, it would also be this location of a plot by the Klingon Empire to sabotage supplies of quadrotiticali, which were for distribution to Sherman's planet, that would allow the Federation to more accurately hold and secure that region. This was a relatively dishonourable tactic, and being caught out by the Klingons, it was a disgrace to the Klingon operative who had been behind this operation, being exposed by Captain Kirk as well, who was a great enemy of the Klingon Empire. I imagine didn't exactly help matters too much under those circumstances. The station, via the 24th century, would also occupy a rather curious position of being the subject of a temporal displacement event caused by the Bajoran Orb of Time, where the USS Defiant and its crew, along with the same Klingon operative who had been attempting to sabotage these events in the past, went back in time and then had to search for the renegade future Klingon aboard the space station. These events, of course, would not be known to the contemporaries such as Captain Kirk and Spock, the crew of the Enterprise and general staff aboard the space station at the time, but would become common knowledge of the Federation in the late 24th century. The station itself was physically considerably larger than a standard Federation starship of the Constitution class, and therefore probably larger than most other vessels of the Federation at the time. It consisted of 30 decks with 3 large outboard cargo holding facilities, which primarily at this time were being used to store grain. It also had a ventral module, which was a large shuttle bay. On board the station there were obviously crew housing facilities, recreational facilities, transporters, and possibly even early replicators in the form of protein resequencers. The station was originally built by Starfleet, but was very quickly turned over to civilian control. Hence the fact that the station's commander was not a Starfleet officer, a captain or commander or any other such position of rank, but more a Federation-appointed bureaucrat. The station was directly administrated by the Federation, but as I said, was a civilian installation which Starfleet defended, and as a civilian installation, despite its proximity to the Klingon border, it was not well armed. There's no actual indication that the station had weapons of any kind, although it very likely had shields. Its defensive capabilities would have been minimal to nothing, although it is probable it had some low-level particle cannons, perhaps plasma weapons, but that's pure speculation. It wouldn't make sense for Starfleet to build a station on the Klingon border and not arm it. But that being said, when it was turned over to civilians, perhaps those armaments were removed, as you don't exactly give civilians access to surface-to-air missile systems, but perhaps basic weaponry for a limited level of defense and deterrence may have been present. A visual inspection of the space station does give away its era of construction. It had a very, very smooth hull, unlike, say, vessels and space stations of an earlier era, say the 22nd century, where the hull was a little more used feeling, much more of the technology on the surface. The space station was certainly very advanced, if still civilian operated. As I said, it was originally built by Starfleet. Now, the station isn't maybe the most pretty, but it is very efficient, it's very simplistic, and it's designed to be functional. And as I said, it looks advanced, much like a Constitution class starship at the time period. You know it's got advanced weapons and technology on board. It is capable of quite a lot and has, like I say, spindly nacelle pylons and a little thin neck that look like they'd be a very tempting target for an enemy, but actually, because of the strength of the alloys of the time period, the advancements in engineering technology, not to mention the shield protecting them, these things are not as vulnerable as they might first appear. And it's the same with a space station. There's no obvious antenna arrays for subspace transceivers, or there's not even a lot of windows on this thing, implying it's pretty structurally well built. It's pretty sound. It's going to be able to take a bit of punishment, even though it's not a military installation. This is likely a reflection of the fact that it is, again, close to the border of the Klingon Empire. That was my phone going off there. Where was I? Now, there's no reason to assume that this space station didn't continue on to have a very long and prosperous career within the Federation. As I said, it was a very modular design. This kind of space station was kind of a kit bash thing. Starfleet had popped these things up. There were variations of this design and basic theme built all across the Federation. It's possible the space station may have moved with the fluctuating border of the Klingon Empire, as also a reflection of the Khitomer Accords. This space station may have been dismantled, but there's no canonical references to exactly when the space station went out of use, or if it was sold on or moved, or even possibly, no reason to assume it isn't, still in service at the time of the 2360s, or even during the Dominion War. It could have been still being used as a supply depot or distribution center. It's entirely plausible. Starfleet wouldn't just throw something away if it was still useful. Unlike a spaceship, which is going to be more readily encountering enemies, it's going to be encountering new species, needs to be state-of-the-art. A space station is pretty static, especially that close to core Federation territory, and by the 24th century an ally of the Federation. They're not really worrying about this thing anymore. It doesn't need to be state-of-the-art. You don't have to worry about it being attacked. If it is attacked, you've got the Klingons on the border who would probably defend it at this point because they're allies. Also, it's deep within Federation territory. It's going to be surrounded by ships and allies. It's not an easy target. So you don't really necessarily worry so much about this thing not being state-of-the-art. And it's quite a modular design. As I said, it was probably quite serviceable. All that being said, that brings us to the end of this video. There wasn't much more to say. I hope you enjoyed this video, a basic lore breakdown of the Space Station K7. If you did, please like, share and subscribe, as it all really helps the channel and I appreciate it. Comment down below if there's any other space station, starships or anything from the Star Trek or any other sci-fi franchise you'd like me to explore. Be happy to do it, start a conversation about it. And thanks for watching, and bye bye.